Hey everyone, welcome back to Immediate Movie Reactions. So I apologize once again for the setting. I am in my car. It is a real feel of 30 degrees out, rainy and windy midway through April. I thought spring had finally broken, but here we are. Just coming out of the movie Renfield, which is, I guess, was written by Robert Kirkman. You may know from Walking Dead. I didn't realize that he had been involved with it. Based on a comic book series, it looks like. I didn't get a chance to do a lot of research or really look into this. I try to go into these without watching too many previews. I mean, I see a ton of movies, right? So I see a lot of previews. Luckily, I think for this, it had pretty much just been the one or two previews that I had seen. And I was a little nervous going into it. So it is Nicholas Hoult who plays the eponymous Renfield, and Nicolas Cage, a lot of Nicholases, I guess, in this movie, who plays Dracula. Awkwafina is in it. She plays a police officer, and she kind of teams up with Renfield, and Ben Schwartz is sort of, well, not the bad guy, because obviously Dracula's the bad guy. And it's an interesting movie. So here's the thing. It's based on a comic book. I haven't done a whole lot of research, like I said, into it. But I think it was back in the early to mid-90s. I had never heard of it. Big comic guy, but missed a lot of these, sort of smaller publications, I guess. And you can tell through the filming of this movie that it has that comic sensibility. And before I knew that, I'd kind of looked, watching the movie, and I'm thinking, this looks like a superhero movie, not Morbius. Do I want to bring up Morbius? No, not Morbius. But maybe, I guess, what Morbius could have been. Just the way the action scenes are filmed. And, on that, boy, it's interesting. There are some good scenes. There's some good graphic scenes in this. The actual action is a little too frenetic. It's a little bit too close up. A lot of the filming is just, it's a little too in your face. I wish they had pulled back just a little bit more. I like to see the entire scene. I like to see what's going on. There's a lot of this where you can't quite tell exactly what's happening, but the violence and the action is completely over the top. The blood and the gore, the practical effects in this movie are fantastic. Even though the blood, I think, was a little bit too bright red, a little too cartoony looking. If you have seen the movie Turbo Kid, think that level of violence, where it's just gory and bloody and disgusting, but also humorous, crazy, like that these things are never going to happen, could never happen. The movie, or the television show Happy, which is on Netflix, starring Christopher Maloney, again, it's that level of just pervasive violence. And I think where this movie for me kind of fell apart, there were a couple too many heartfelt, spill your guts, talk about your feelings, how Renfield feels about being Dracula's familiar. Some of it's okay, because obviously we need to set him up as a character. And where we start this film is him starting to feel like maybe he needs to get away from Dracula, right? It's this whole, if you've seen the previews, it's this whole codependent relationship, which they drive that into the ground, right? They really put a stake in it. Right? Sorry, that's terrible. But at the same time, Dracula has, the timeline gets a little iffy, but Dracula has been injured and is recuperating, but can't quite recuperate because Renfield's not bringing him the right caliber of victims. But then when the plot deems it necessary, Dracula's just, back to full power. And so, it's Renfield trying to break away, but then this whole crime family gets involved, the Lobos, who maybe a Hispanic crime family, I don't know. They don't really, it's just kind of a random random gang of thugs that are also selling drugs, lots and lots of drugs. But the plot is generally inconsequential because it is, what drives this movie is the scenes of violence, right? It's the action pieces that are set up, staggered at pretty good intervals, I think, throughout this film. It doesn't really ever feel like it's dragging. There are some jokes that just don't quite land, but that's not really where I found the humor. Was not in the set jokes, but was in those actions. In the time where, Awkwafina is hanging someone over a balcony and Renfield jumps down from a higher level and crushes the guy and splits him in two, and then he explodes like a water balloon all over everything. Where he rips someone's arms off and uses them like nunchucks to beat up the rest of the bad guys. It's things like that are just this crazy over-the-top nonsense that is incredibly entertaining. Nicholas Hoult, who I haven't honestly seen him really in anything, though looking at his film background, there's quite a few movies that I think I would enjoy, so I'm going to try and catch up with those. Nicolas Cage, boy, I was not sure on that, because can we still call Nicolas Cage a movie star? I mean, obviously he's a name that gets drawn, but when was the last time he had a successful movie? The Unbearable Weight of Being Awesome, is that what that one was last year? That kind of, I think, came and went. And I don't know that he's been in anything really big, and most of the things that we know him for is kind of a joke, right? So where is he successful? He's successful when he's able to be campy and still fun, and that's what we have in this movie. He plays a great Dracula, and I said Dracula. And, he plays it over the top, but also really menacing, and it just a really good job of being that narcissist and feeling powerful. This is going to sound really strange. So he has this row of kind of razor sharp teeth, top and set of razor sharp teeth. The top teeth don't move. Like, you can tell that it's definitely a prosthetic. But the rest of the effects are pretty good, except for early in the film, after he's been burned. His body is reknitting and reforming itself, and his left ear is kind of like down here, which didn't make sense. It feels like they just did that because, like, oh, that'll be gross looking. And it kind of was, but it was a little too comic. It was a little too silly. It definitely much better as the film goes on and he starts getting his powers back and reforming himself. I think there's some really good practical effects. The actual violence in the blood, it looks good. The action is okay. Awkwafina, I don't know. I guess I'm growing to like her. From the second Jumanji movie and Shang-Chi, she's been pretty good. I think, again, I want to go back and see some of her other stuff. I didn't buy her in this movie. I don't know that she really fit as like this gruff, top of her class police officer who is the only honest cop on the force and the only one who has the power to take down this entire gang, but she's also basically just a traffic cop. But we're not watching this film for the realistic police work or anything like that, right? This is just clearly pulp violence and comic book type stuff. She's got this relationship with a sister who is played by someone who I should know. There is the crime boss family, run by, I believe it is the president from The Expanse. Again, a name that I should know and is somewhere in this brain, and I just can't come up with it right now. But everybody throughout the film does a very good job. It's a very solid film. There are some plot holes, but who cares, right? In the end, who really cares? The one place where I think this movie really failed for me was the kind of way they wrapped it up. It got a little bit silly. I thought the way Dracula's finally destroyed or disposed of, even though it was funny, didn't really fit too well. And I'm not going to give too much away, but I was sitting there with a friend and we're enjoying the movie, and then we see the end and we're like, oh, really? Like, That's unfortunate. So I don't know. If you have seen it, please let me know what you think of the movie and the ending. And so, I'm going to do this thing, see it, stream it, or skip it, right? So I think that if you're on the fence and you're cool with silly vampire movies, they follow, it's Dracula, right? So they follow pretty much every vampire trope and rule, right? If you like comic violence, if you are okay with campy acting, and cheesy puns, and over-the-top buckets and buckets of blood, then go see this movie, right? I think it's worth it. I don't say that about a lot of movies lately. If you're on the fence, then wait, stream it. If you don't like violence, if you don't care about any of these characters or any of these actors, you can skip it and you're not going to miss anything. I think that when we're, 5 years from now, this movie, people are going to forget even existed. But I think for those that see it are going to enjoy it, and it may be one. Like, I could see myself watching this again, like Cocaine Bear, right? I could see myself watching this again, in a few months or a year or so and having fun with it. So, in that case, it's fine. But again, if you have no interest and you skip it, you're not going to miss anything. All right, I went long. I appreciate everyone. Thank you. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below with what you think. All right, bye guys. See you after the next movie.